Alright, today we're going to be learning about if statements. So to create an if statement, you start off by writing if. So if, then you write your statement. So statements are usually comparing one thing with something else using equals. So if v1, so variable 1, equals v2, or you can say greater than v2, lesser than, and then there's a bit more complicated, not equal to. So if v1 is not equal to v2, if v1 is greater or equal, so greater or equal, or lesser or equal. So we're going to start basic and just say if v1 is greater than v2. Next you write then. So if v1 is greater than v2, then do something. So what I did here is put a tab to make it easier to read. This will come in handy later, but you don't have to do this, but you should. So right after the if on the next line, put a tab and write what you want it to do. So let's say print v1 is greater than v2. And then we'll write end if. This tells the computer that we're done. So everything inside here, that's what you do after this if. So right now v1 is not greater than v2, they're equal. So if we run the code, it won't say this because it's not true, so it just skips over it. But if we make v1 greater by saying v1 equals 1, v1 is greater than v2. Alright, let's get a bit more complicated. Let's try getting input for these variables so it automatically does it. So let's say input v1 and then comma v1. So it'll get input for what v1 is. So now when we start, it'll ask us what v1 is. So if we put v1 anything greater than 0, it'll print v1 is greater than v2. If we put anything lesser than 0, so for example -5, it doesn't do that because it's not greater. But what if we wanted to say v1 is lesser? How we do that is by putting else. So if v1 is greater than v2, then print otherwise, so else print v2 is greater than v1. End if. So now let's run this, and this time let's put it less, so -5. v2 is greater than v1. Now let's get input for v2. So input v2. Alright, now let's try with the input for both of them. So v1 will input 5, v2 will input 10. v2 is greater than v1, and that's true. So that's if-then statements. Now let's get to the exercises. So first up, try to figure out how to use if statements with strings. Egg if variable equals hello. And the second step is create an if statement that checks if your age is greater than 30. So there's your exercises. See you later.